everyone. So I'm going to settle a debate, right? So give you a little bit of backstory. So I released the Dax Solus Saga on my YouTube channel, right? So there's like 7 chapters. I'm releasing a new chapter every Saturday around noon, just in case you guys want to check it out. That's my fan fiction. I created new worlds, new characters. There's a lot of new stuff that, doesn't really exist in Star Wars when it comes to that. With that being said, one of the biggest things that I fall under scrutiny with that is that Dax Solus is a Force-sensitive Mandalorian. And they're like, no, that's all this and that. And, and Disney, making up stories and all of this and making Sabine be a Jedi and all of that. But it's not. And I'm going to prove that to you today, or at least give you a pretty good argument about it. So 1,000 years, right? Now stay with me. 1,000 years before the Skywalker saga, Tarre Vizsla created the Darksaber. Now, anybody who has done their research instead of just watching Clone Wars knows that he was a Force-sensitive Mandalorian that became a Jedi. Not a Jedi that became a Mandalorian. Which means that at some point in the Star Wars saga, and that's canon, there was a Force-sensitive Mandalorian that became a Jedi. So he had Force-sensitive abilities, right? So the Darksaber was never created for Mandalorians. It was Tarre Vizsla's lightsaber. He created it that way for himself as a Jedi. So after he died, the Jedi put it in their temple and locked it away. And House Vizsla stole it back. And when they stole it back, it became a symbol of leadership throughout Mandalore, right? So with that being said, the Darksaber was never created for that purpose. And one of the biggest things that we have to remember about Star Wars, and one of the core things about Star Wars, is that the Force flows through every living being. And almost every major Jedi and every major character in Star Wars has said it throughout the entire franchise. So with that being said, it would be nice to have that recognition, right? And there's a reason for it. One of the biggest reasons is like that my Mandalorian character, I chose to have those abilities. And there's a reason for it. I didn't want to be a Jedi with my cosplay. I didn't want to be a Sith necessarily, right? I mean, I have cosplays as a Sith. But like I've dove into Mandalorian stuff so deep. And I love it. I eat, sleep, and breathe Mandalorian stuff. So as you guys can see, almost every one of my build videos, all of my content on Instagram and everything else. So with that being said, I've always been partial to the concept of having Force abilities, right? Just like everybody else, you stand outside at Walmart and you're like, and you want to open the door. But, in the realm of cosplay, it goes beyond just, creating a costume and putting it on for Comic-Con. Like you're creating a character, no different than playing a tabletop game, essentially. So when you get into like serious cosplaying, and doing custom characters instead of your characters that are on screen, right? You start to develop backstory and things like that, right? So with that being said, and there's a reason why I say this, because Star Wars is a huge galaxy, right? And with that being said, there's a lot of stories, there's a lot of adventures, and there's a lot of room for imagination. Okay, so Star Wars may be famous because of the Skywalker saga, but it is not only the Skywalker saga. It's evolved into more stories from different planets and different races and things like that, right? So, which is why I developed and started writing fan fiction, because I very much enjoy it, right? So with that being said, I'd like to know what you guys think, about the concept behind it. I mean, Sabine was being trained as a Jedi, right? So with that being said, and I'll do a video on Sabine because there's a lot of knowledge there that I feel like a lot of cosplayers and a lot of Star Wars fans and stuff like that really don't know or haven't put all the pieces together. Because, like when I've been watching the new series and the new shows and the new movies and things like that, and you get a lot of people that are like, oh my God, they're destroying Star Wars. Like it may not be our image of what we want necessarily all of the time, but it's still Star Wars at the end of the day. It's somebody else's reimagining. Not everybody's going to like my fan fiction either, So with that being said, I really would like you guys to drop some comments and, let's start a discussion on what your thoughts are on Force-sensitive Mandalorians and like, maybe they're not a Sith or a Jedi, because the major argument would be that Mandalorians don't like Jedi and they don't trust Sith, right? But we also know that Ahsoka is not a Jedi anymore. And we also know that she's also not a Sith. So, and I do realize in the extended universe you have like gray Jedi and stuff like that, but there is the concept that there is the Force flows through all living beings. So it is possible that people within the Star Wars realm or universe could have Force abilities and choose not to be a Sith or a Jedi, And one last thing, in Mandalorian culture, weapons are their religion. We learn that through Din Djarin, through the Mandalorian TV series, and then digging deeper all the way back through the extended universe and things like that. So to think for a second that a Mandalorian, after disposing of a Jedi or a Sith, wouldn't take their lightsaber as a weapon by itself, even without Force abilities, which we do know that you can wield a lightsaber without Force abilities because Moff Gideon did it. He wielded the Darksaber, and so did Bo-Katan, so did Din Djarin, so did many other people, right? So if that's the case, why would you just ignore the fact of having a weapon that is so powerful at your disposal and then just decide not to use it because they think it's a symbol of being a Jedi or a Sith? It doesn't make sense. If that's the case, then most of the weapons that we use in Star Wars are manufactured and spread out through all different factions. So that's like saying you can't use an E11 blaster because it's a stormtrooper gun. It doesn't make sense, right? And with that being said, I think that, the construction of a lightsaber, yes, of course, there would have to be some kind of knowledge and being trained in the Force in order to construct one. Absolutely. But to find one or to take one, let's face it, during Execute Order 66, Order 66 wiped out almost all of the Jedi. Where are all their lightsabers? I know that's like a far stretch, guys, but, it's really got me thinking when someone had approached me and said, you're not a real Mandalorian character because you carry a lightsaber. So it made me think about this, and that's why I made this video. I think this is something that should be talked about. Let's debate it, guys. So go ahead and hit me up in the comments. Let's start a discussion. And if you're new to my channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. And stay tuned for the next one, guys.